Right, so the recorder is on. So hello everyone. Today is Thursday, May 15th, and this is the Konflux Community Outreach SIG call, hosted bi-weekly. My name is Eric, and I'll be hosting it today. I'll share my screen with the notes. I just got a message from Adam that he'll be joining in a bit, but we already started. So, yeah, this one. Hello, Adam.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How about you? We just started the recording, so you're right on time. If you want to drive the meeting.
I am happy to let you lead, facilitate this morning, since I just got in.
Cool. No problem. So things we have on the agenda. So the first one, Ralph sadly couldn't make it to the meeting. So apparently there is some interest in using and advertising Konflux CI. So I myself actually have to open it. So too bad and shame on me that I haven't actually tried it and looked at it before the meeting. So apparently there's a project, CI/CD cybersecurity, that would like to give Konflux a try. And I would say, since we don't have Ralph to tell us more, let's just treat this as read-only, so everyone can go through the topic on their own, unless Adam has some more information. Like I said, shame on me for being late to the meeting and not actually having looked at the post that Ralph created. So let's just treat this as read-only. We can revisit it on the next call. Hopefully we'll have Ralph to give us some information on that one, and we'll track his current things. But the gist is that it's good that we are getting some external interest. Hopefully we'll see more of that. All right, so next up is, yeah, go ahead, Adam.
So I can provide a little bit more about like what the CD Foundation is.
Oh yeah, great.
I actually used to be on the board of directors as Red Hat representative for that foundation. So they are also a Linux Foundation sub-organization, if you will, sub-foundation. They are the home for the Jenkins and Spinnaker projects, and Tecton is currently there right now. However, Tecton is in the process of moving to the CNCF. There's a whole story behind that, not worth diving into on this call. So in addition to being the holders of the IP for those projects, they have had these other prior subcommittees and efforts. In my time at the CDF, they had kind of waned, but I'm kind of happy to see that things like this are starting to pick up again, and it's a good place to have these conversations around security and continuous delivery that's not explicitly tied to Kubernetes, even though like what we're using Kubernetes, but in theory that could be just an implementation detail. Like this could be a place to talk about doing delivery with like other tools or a platform that would be similar to like a GitHub Actions sort of thing. And just finding, and previously, I know Anne-Marie had worked on this group at the CDF called SIG Interop, and it was about finding ways for different CI/CD systems to be able to talk to each other, and it was from that the CD Events project was born, and that is another thing that might be worth also considering as part of any like future architecture for Konflux. But that's kind of big long term. But yeah, I think probably good next action is I'd love to invite Anne Marie to maybe the next community call if we're going to keep this as read only, and maybe she could provide some more context here. Ralph can too.
That's a great call. So let me just put that into the notes. So all right. Thank you for the in-depth description. Yeah, very exciting news. You have the next section as well, so you can continue with that one as well.
Yep. I know we've had previous threads here about conferences and speaking opportunities, and KubeCon North America has its call for proposals open. For Cloud Native, KubeCon North America is kind of like the Super Bowl. It is a huge conference. It is exceptionally hard to get talks approved for the main event. Red Hat in particular, we've at times struggled to get things done, but a lot of that's just because there are so many people who are submitting talks, so many people who are participating. There was a CFP help session yesterday that I asked a few questions about, how could Konflux potentially submit something, and that turned into an interesting conversation, because in terms of the projects that we are consuming directly, there's not a lot that we have that's in the CNCF. We are definitely consuming a lot of CNCF stuff, and I actually reached out to some of the folks who are doing the infrastructure stuff and actually running Konflux, and potentially seeing if there's interest about forming a talk about like what it's like to build a secure CI/CD platform on Kubernetes at scale. And I know there's other adjacent talks that they have longer deadlines for their CFPs. Open Source Security Con is another one that I linked to, and that I think aligns with some of the other security-oriented conferences that folks have submitted talks to about kind of our approach to enabling developers with Konflux and Informa and the other tools that we built.
Yeah, on that, I think they actually killed the Cloud Native Security Con, which would have been an interesting target. And I think they rolled that back into KubeCon, right? I think the last Cloud Native Security Con that's ever going to exist was last June. I don't think they're doing another one. So there might be more opportunity this year at KubeCon for this sort of security related talk. Because this would have been perfect for Cloud Native Security Con, but they killed it because it wasn't getting attendance. They tried it for 2 years,
and I can see it's like the twofold. So I think there is a security track for the main event, and I'm wondering if Open Source Security Con kind of replaces that, where it doesn't have to be just about cloud native stuff.
Yeah.
That stuff outside would be considered.
Hopefully, because I actually gave talks at the Cloud Native Security Con, and it was sort of a bummer. Like, it really didn't have a lot of traction. But if there's an open source security conference now separate, then that's for sure, I think, a better target, because this feels like it's taking the journey for people who are going to be late adopters to cloud native, right? And they have to go from brick and mortar into cloud native. So I think this is the right technology for something broader, right? Than just CNCF marketing. My 2 cents, sorry.
All right. Thank you for the input. Anything else you would like to add, Adam, on conferences? We just missed the deadline for DEF CON US, I noticed. So that one wasn't mentioned in the meeting notes. It's also a bummer. So the CFP ended last Monday, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah. All right. Anyway, the last one is mine, and that's another response that we got from the OSPA office at Red Hat. So you've got the expansion of the abbreviation in the parentheses. So over the few instances of the meeting, we talked about how we can improve or gain exposure about the project. And so the ways that we explored was blogging, participation in conferences, participation in various student programs. And even if you look at our mission statement here, then one of the goals that we would like to achieve is is improving the docs so that most of the issues that current users of Konflux would be like self-support. So it would be a self-supporting community around the solution, which is great. I mentioned the speaking opportunities and blog posts. Yeah. So these are one of the statements that we that Adam formulated at the very beginning of this SIG. However, the email that I got from Josh as a kind of late response to me reaching out to the OSPA office a few weeks back, it got me thinking, because it was, again, very interesting to see a completely different perspective, not so much technical as I was asking about how we could approach blogging, any ideas on how we can actually improve our engagement. He approached it from a very different angle, and the thing that most resonated with me was I interpreted it as the why, and he said, you can see it in the meeting notes. Like, what is it that you actually expect from the community? What is the ultimate goal that you want to achieve? And when I look at our current mission, so taking something from the famous talk of Simon Sinek, start with a why, I think we did a good job on defining the how, the what, and even the how. But I think we're missing out on the why, which may be quite crucial for us to think about and define. So yeah, that's something I wanted to talk about and brainstorm. Sadly, we don't have a broader audience today, so maybe we can leave it for another instance. But yeah, if you agree, then just think about it. What it would mean for you, to have a why on the community building around Konflux. What is it that we and why is it that we are trying to build it, and what is the ultimate goal? I'd be actually interested, Adam, do you have any input on that? Because you were also on the email, on CC on that email from Josh.
Yeah, I might not have read it yet. I have a backlog that I need to go through. So yeah, it's interesting. And since this is a community call, I'm trying not to inject some of the things that our employer wants. In terms of like, if we're thinking about like why the project exists, the first place is like, to me, it's like we want anyone to be able to build secure software and have and I think the thing that like I've seen also with like a lot reviewing the other talks that folks have been giving, that we're doing it in a way that we are um, empowering the developer to innovate and effectively not be held, not be sort of held by shifting the security so far left that developers can't do anything. That we are creating this kind of middle ground with our technology so that developers can, in parallel, innovate and also harden. And that's kind of if there's like a sort of like magic, a differentiator for what we're doing versus what anyone else might be doing. That to me kind of stands out. And I guess the question is, why would we want a community versus it just being one company doing their one thing?
I think you
might
kind
be,
of,
is that a second part of the, maybe that's the second part of the why.
yeah, but I think you already kind of started with on the community why with your first or second sentence is like, yeah, we could have gone with a internal solution only, but we want everyone, for everyone's sake, to build, a secure, to secure their builds and use a vendor agnostic solution providing mechanisms to achieve that.
And some of the things that have been coming across my plate recently would involve effectively, or would require us, thinking now as like the Red Hat end user, the need to trust another system from a different entity, and thinking about how do we build that. And if they're both kind of confluxes, that makes things easier because our tools kind of understand each other. But having a community project, I think, helps here because it forces us to get outside of the sort of one company window and think about the needs of others. And in doing so, we build a better system overall.
One thing I see in some of the things that are listed there is that to me it means making Konflux upstream compatible, and this is something that we are trying to keep in mind and trying to work on, especially in Konflux CI, where we actually deploy it on vanilla Kubernetes. And the Fedora cluster is like the first consumer of that of that setup, right? It's running on OpenShift, but it's consuming this upstream sort of Konflux manifests. But the overall idea is to make it more and more upstream compatible, and I believe if we get better with that, we get better with a few of those points here. It's not the why, but maybe it's the how. But it's another how.
Yep.
We know now that it's not easy, to say the least, to install, to have a setup of to set up a Conflux cluster. Now in Red Hat, we are getting very good at it, and we are doing it quite effectively. But for someone who would like to just set up Conflux for themselves, it's not easy. And the more we make it easier, we would be more appealing to upstream adopters, to upstream users, stuff like that.
I kept silent for a while as I was already thinking about whether we can capture this in a better way in the main docs. So one of the things that Josh mentioned is like, yeah, you already have a website and a documentation, so which already seems reasonable. So that's a good start. But I think we could formulate some of these things on the main page, you know, and have the mission statement there. If we don't, I think it's pretty scarce. You know, but we can definitely improve on that on the why, and mention some of the how. Just go ahead. I'm sharing my screen, so I don't see anything else. So just speak up.
Yeah, that story right there. Like once you have a why statement, that story right there, associated with enablement, vanilla upstreams, workflows, is probably the most powerful hook you have to get people from other places looking at the technology. Because if you can come up with a succinct why statement that's close to what has been discussed here, where you know vendor neutral, and then you were able to go, here's what we're doing. It's a little janky, but we're trying and we need help, right? And you sort of document what you have to spin up sort of a vanilla upstream Kubernetes situation. That's where people will hook in who have other interests, right? And if you want, and you can get them engaged with by having them with a simple path to touch the technology and use it in that way. And then you'll probably then they can help you refine the why beyond that simple statement, right? Because then you start having use case stories, because they are actually going to be using it in anger, right? And they'll tell you why they're using it. And that helps. But the fact that you're spinning up something on Fedora right now and trying to do something vanilla Kubernetes is fantastic. That's just a story you just need to tell and be like, we're working on it. This is a place where other people will self-select to help make it easier, I think.
Yeah. I think two things that we can do to make it better internally, even before trying to, or parallel to trying to sell it outside, is to make our own developers use the vanilla installation of the upstream setup of Conflux as their development environments, and it would make it will have more users, and it would surface problems and have more incentive to fix issues fast. And the other one is to keep in mind when we develop our code for Conflux, is to keep it upstream compatible. So we have things in our code base that in order to deploy Conflux on vanilla Kubernetes, we had to kind of push them away, replace them with something else. We had to kind of work around to make them upstream compatible. And this is something to keep in mind, because our main use cases now, and we have things when we develop stuff, we have the Red Hat clusters in mind and how we do stuff there. But those things that we develop in different services that we develop, they go to the upstream release that we have, the upstream setup, and then they break if they are not upstream compatible, right? And then we either need to work around stuff, or we need to go back to the developer and said, okay, this is not compatible with anything but OpenShift, for example.
Yeah. What you just said, I think that makes a great conference story right there. The tension between internal implementation and being a valid upstream, or I think that's a great. What you just said is a great 5-minute talk, and that will resonate with externals who have the same battles when they have an internal piece of tech that they think is great and then want to make it open source and maintain it. And it's okay to say you're not doing things perfectly, right? Like, everyone gets it. It's the fact that you're trying, right? And then you go basically tell people we're trying here, and if you help us by making the upstream more important, broader, then that's more gravity for the upstream, even for us. So it makes it we want everyone to be working here, and it's a process to get there. But like I said, right now what I'm hearing from you is all great. It just needs to be confident. The group needs to be confident enough to start telling that story, right? Like, trying to be a valid upstream the right way.
Yeah, I agree. One thing, I think that we need to have the capacity to make it better. If we go to people and tell them we want you to try it, right? If our priorities are not on upstream, then we get people. Maybe they raise some issue, but they see there's not enough traction on the upstream effort, and they'll go away. So even if it's not ready, we need to have the capacity to make it better.
Right. The development process needs to be aligned to make the upstream important. It's not just code over the wall.
And the resources, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, yes, is with any other effort or project inside a company, you really need to first have a business use case to be justifiable, so that you can cleverly prioritize the upstream work. This is where the upstream first approach should have done the job, but I'm unclear on why it doesn't work, along with our intentions. So yeah, I guess it's everyone's choice. I think at the end of the day, you still need to have the business use case in mind, but at the same time, since we are open source enthusiasts, you can always add some extra bits to prioritize also the upstream side of things, regardless of the business stake in it. Go ahead. I heard some hand up.
Yeah, so I think I put my hand up. It's around kind of that, almost like continuing along the thread of any sort of OpenShift-isms, Red Hat-isms that we have in the sort of the Red Hat downstream versus the upstream, and seeing that, oh, our upstream Konflux CI, it breaks for X reasons on vanilla kube. Right now, not everything is being deployed in the sort of vanilla. And I'm thinking about that first point about like building ecosystems with like libraries and plugins. Having like that's I think where actually, if there's like also like a business case for it, is that by going with the sort of like upstream first mindset, you're almost forced to build in that flexibility. So then anything that like one particular entity does, it's like an implementation detail, and we document how to do it, but it's not necessarily tied down to what a specific company or thing does. It's hard. It adds a lot of work. It's a reason why many don't start that way, because if you it's much easier to hard code things than to write plugins and curate some kind of plugin system. The good news is I don't think we're like even totally starting from scratch here with what we're doing with Tecton. And I think that's part of another thing that I know, Eric, you and I had talked about, is finding ways that the things that we're doing in Konflux, in our build definitions repo, being able to bring that back to the Tecton community by, say, even sharing and improving the base kind of like task catalog and improving that catalog in Tecton. So then even the tools that like we are using that form part of this distribution, if someone wants to use it for some other purpose with Tecton, we have an easy way for that to be done, and then that ecosystem can grow. Or even if someone wants to take, say, the Conforma tool and run it on Jenkins, like, it's not hard for them to take it and extend it. And similarly, sort of like build and flourish the ecosystem that we're building around Konflux. I'm kind of ranting a bit. I apologize, but it's one of those, like, by doing that, if we're getting to like the why are we doing it, is that we're being forced to architect flexibility by doing things in a community fashion.
Absolutely. So I only brought this topic up, to brainstorm to some further depths into it, because like I might have my own vision and understanding and stuff, but it's always better to share this, see other people's angles and opinions. And now I would like to reflect on what you mentioned, like by the upstream first kind of business model, you're forced to, put in extra work to stay compatible, not break others. That's all nice, but before you actually gain the traction, it cannot be just a responsibility of a few individuals. And what I would like to touch on is what can we actually do to make it a true collective responsibility, that everyone thinks, okay, upstream first, it means that Red Hat aside, how can we actually make it work in a better way with vanilla upstreams integrations? So that's the thing that I'm not seeing that much in the wild right now in the Konflux ecosystem, that many people really understand this. They just treat it as a general public repo, but that's not what really open source means. Anyway, another hand up, please go ahead.
Yeah, about the things that we can do. I think that it's fine that not everything is upstream compatible or upstream first, at least initially. I think we can, and I think there is this subset of services which are Konflux core, like build service, integration service, Conforma, maybe the UI, and those things they should be upstream compatible at all times, and the rest that might be nice to have. And one thing that we can do to make it so that they are this way is to enforce some tests that are made on vanilla Kubernetes rather than on OpenShift. If you test stuff on Kind or whatever other non-OpenShift distribution, then you cannot introduce OpenShift stuff or things that are just for OpenShift and still stay alive, right? You would break your tests.
Or even, since just my own awareness of like how like integration test scenarios are working today, and some of the things that we had built around, like where it assumes, oh, like an OpenShift cluster has been provisioned, like there might be other similar kind of technologies like vCluster, where we are able to spin up a more vanilla distribution that looks and feels like a cluster, but it's actually just running in a namespace that might be on OpenShift, right? And it we're able to, because it's a decidedly not OpenShift thing. Anything that is in OpenShift is a rule break. So I'm just throwing that out there beyond kind, which also is like great testing tool. Don't get me wrong, we use that in Shipwright all the time.
Just an example.
All right. So any further discussion on this topic? I feel like this one was very interesting and productive, and definitely deserves some continuation in the future. I'll have a look at the docs, whether we can refine the why statement there and improve the selling point. That's the least that I can do at the moment. And so anything
we have a
else?
box party tomorrow. I think there's
Really?
a box
Really?
party.
I don't see it in the... Which
might-
calendar is it in? Can you share the calendar privately with me?
Shay put it on a Konflux shared calendar. I don't know if that is actually the community calendar. It might be a different thing. I will try and copy it to the Konflux community calendar.
Cool. Thank you for that, Adam. Thank you for the heads up.
Yeah, I should probably do a full intro. I think when I did my initial intro, only one other person was on, but I'm the new Fedora project lead that's inbound, Jeff Spalletta. So I'm on this call because I'm actually really interested in making sure that there's a smooth path towards acceptance of this technology when it gets to the point where Fedora is going to be asked to integrate it. We're able to confidently say this is a good technology that's the right way forward for the project. So I'm very interested in the outreach stuff and making sure that there's some traction on it being a sort of generally accepted upstream project and not just sort of head off some of the not invented here commentary that can happen when Red Hat spins up a project that's people think of it as an internal only. So I'm really excited to see the thoughts here and trying to broaden the exposure as a viable upstream on its own. So that's why I'm here. Hopefully I can help with this. Feels like the sort of the right places we can on the outreach team. So
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you very much for having you on the meeting. Hopefully it's not the last time we have you here.
Yeah.
We definitely need, the experience and the feedback and the, ways of expanding, slowly. And Fedora really feels like the step into the right direction to kind of catapult the project into the wild.
Yeah. Exactly. I want to make sure that it's the minimize the friction. I can't say zero friction because it's a community process, but minimize the friction when we start having discussions about being used in production for Fedora stuff. So, but the fact that there's a cluster somewhere already using Fedora as testing is a great story, and I want to encourage you to tell that story sooner rather than later, just to let people know that that's what's already being done, because that will help in comms for sure.
Yeah. Well, I guess, yeah, as you mentioned, it's an OpenShift cluster, but I think you're not using the Red Hat operators. You're using the upstream operators, almost like a OKD kind of sense.
We are consuming from the upstream manifest. So those manifests they run, they are compatible with upstream, and everything is built from the upstream compatible manifests, but it's built on OpenShift.
I think we reached the end of the agenda for today. So I think we can leave it at there. Like I said, I will have a look at the docs and see in what ways we can improve the mission statement. Is this the first thing that people see in the docs? And then we definitely need to work in the Fedora partnership, but that's also so there is a dedicated meeting for that one, like Konflux plus Fedora, which happens next Thursday on a bi-weekly basis. So it's the other Thursday. Also important for us to keep being involved on that front. Yeah. So unless there are any further comments, topics, so let me adjourn the meeting there. I will stop the recording and